One afternoon, just like any other day, I received a message. It was just a short line of text, but enough to send chills down my spine. If you don't stop, I'll destroy everything you love. My vision blurred for a few seconds, unable to believe what I had just read. Who could do this to me? Who would want to threaten my life like this? I held my phone, trying to make sense of who sent the message, but the sender's name didn't show up. A cold feeling spread through my chest as I realized this wasn't a joke. I had heard stories of friends being hurt by complicated family dynamics, but I never thought I'd be the victim. Emily, the aunt I always considered the closest family member, had now become the first enemy of my life. My mind raced as I recalled the memories of her. Emily was always the one in control of everything in the family, always holding power and casting a threatening gaze. I couldn't believe that it was her quietly sabotaging everything I had worked so hard to build. My mom had always said, "Our family is our support. Don't worry, everything will be okay." But what my mom didn't know was that I was standing on the edge of a battle I was completely unprepared for. I needed to figure out who was behind this threat and why it was me. I couldn't let my life be pushed to the edge without fighting back. Every step I took now was shrouded in tension. Emily was trying to destroy me and my family, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. My name is Jack, and if you're hearing this story, you've likely already seen me fighting for everything I hold dear. I work at an advertising firm in Chicago, a bustling city full of opportunities. My life was pretty stable until Emily, the powerful aunt in my family, decided to insert herself into my life in a way I never expected. Emily has always been someone very special in our family. No one could deny her intelligence and ability to handle any situation. However, what I didn't expect was that she would use her smarts and power to manipulate those around her. She always believed she was the only one capable of making the right decisions. Whether it was in family matters or in each member's career. And I, unfortunately, became a pawn in her power play. Since I started working at the advertising firm, Emily has always been there, quietly overseeing and influencing every important decision I made. She never directly interfered with my work, but whenever an issue arose, she'd be there, almost as if she knew what was going to happen before I did. I once thought I had control over my own life, but the truth was, she had overshadowed everything. It was only a matter of time before things took a turn. After a long period of trying to stay away from her issues, I started noticing strange things happening at the firm. Contracts I was working on were suddenly cancelled without clear reasons. Meetings I attended were interrupted without warning, and of course, I was always the one left to deal with the fallout. The more I looked into it, the more suspicious things became. I received a call from my boss, David, who had always been someone I could count on. He told me the company was facing issues with some key contracts and that I needed to adjust my work style if I wanted to keep my position. But David didn't explain why, which made me feel like something was off. One day, I accidentally found out that in meetings I wasn't attending, Emily was there, sitting next to the company's directors, making key decisions, even though she had no official role there. That's when I started to suspect that Emily was quietly pulling the strings. I felt like I was being backed into a corner, controlled both in my work and in my personal life. I couldn't let her continue to ruin everything I had worked so hard to build, but how could I fight someone with so much power and influence? Emily wasn't just an aunt in the family. She was a woman with significant influence in the community and at the company. She knew exactly how to make people trust her while also controlling every situation. I wasn't the only one facing her. Everyone in the family, especially my mom, believed Emily was just doing what was necessary to protect the family. But I knew that wasn't the case. And then one day, everything became clearer than ever. I discovered that not only was she manipulating my career, but she was also sabotaging relationships within the family. My mom and dad, who had always been my solid support, were getting pulled into endless arguments, largely due to rumors and Emily's interference. She made everyone feel like if they didn't go along with her, they'd be in trouble. But I couldn't take it anymore. I had to stand up. I couldn't let Emily destroy everything I had worked so hard for. No matter how much power or influence she had, I wasn't going to let her control my life. I began to make a plan. Emily wouldn't win this game. The next day, I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest. Everything in my life seemed to be falling apart piece by piece. I received a call from David, my boss. He informed me that the company had decided to cancel the important contract I had spent months negotiating. The reason given was changes in the company's strategy. A vague and unconvincing excuse. But I knew what was really going on. I wasn't the only one being affected. As I started digging deeper into these strange situations, I realized that something wasn't right. The meetings I attended were becoming more and more tense. I was losing control over major projects, and in the important meetings, every decision had to go through Emily's approval. My aunt, the person I always thought was protecting me. But in reality, she was secretly meddling in my work, even controlling decisions within the company. The more I looked into it, the more I realized this wasn't just about work. The violations and unfounded accusations I was facing weren't just coincidences. Emily had started to sabotage my relationships with my closest friends, especially Maria, my best friend, who I trusted completely. Every time I met Maria, she looked at me differently, as if there was a change I couldn't explain. Eventually, Maria admitted that Emily had approached her, planting doubts about me, even telling her that I wasn't the friend she thought I was. "What did she say to you?" I asked Maria one evening, when it was just the two of us sitting in a quiet cafe. Maria looked down at her hands, silent for a long time. "Emily told me you were deceiving everyone, that you weren't trustworthy. She said if you didn't change your ways, no one would stand by you anymore." That was the first shock. I never imagined Emily could go this far. Not only was she attacking my career, but she was also attacking my personal relationships, making those around me doubt and distance themselves from me. I had lost the trust of people I had spent so much time building relationships with. When everything started to unravel, I couldn't sit still anymore. I decided I had to do something to protect myself and the people around me. I couldn't let Emily, with her cunning plans, continue to manipulate everything like this. It was time for me to turn the tables. I started collecting every bit of evidence I could find. Every meeting, every conversation with Emily was documented. I recorded all the calls, took screenshots of every message she sent me and others. I knew I was up against a powerful adversary, but I couldn't let myself stay in a vulnerable position. I wouldn't let her destroy everything I had built in my life. I also started reaching out to my colleagues at the company, those who might have been influenced by Emily. Even though they didn't say anything, I could feel the shift in their attitude toward me. It was time for me to open their eyes to the truth, to make them understand that Emily wasn't who they thought she was. But I couldn't do this alone. I needed support. Maria, despite being attacked by Emily, finally realized she needed to stand by my side. We began working together, preparing for a fight that I knew wouldn't be easy, but at least I wasn't alone anymore, and I wouldn't give up. The next day, I could feel the tension in the air at home. Everything seemed to be slowly unraveling, and I couldn't stop it. My family had always been my rock, but now it felt like a small crack was spreading through our relationships, a crack that I couldn't fix immediately. Emily wasn't just causing trouble at work. Now, she was sabotaging my relationship with my family. It all started during our small family dinners, where she always sat at the head of the table, drawing everyone's attention. At first, everyone thought she was just the family protector, but I started to notice that something wasn't right. Every time she was around, a wave of negativity would spread, making everyone look at me with a different gaze. One evening, as we gathered around the dinner table, I felt the coldness in my mom's eyes. She no longer looked at me the same way. When I tried to talk about the struggles I was facing at work, she just nodded quietly, offering no advice or encouragement like she used to. I knew she was believing whatever Emily had told her. Emily had succeeded in making my mom think that I was no longer capable of handling my problems on my own. "Jack, you need to be careful with your decisions," my mom said softly. But in her voice, I could hear doubt. That was the moment I felt like the whole world was against me. My mom was the person I trusted the most, but now I couldn't feel her support. I started to see my relationship with my family becoming distant, and I knew that Emily was the one causing this rift. But the story didn't end there. My dad, a man who had always stood by the family, was also starting to change the way he saw me. He was speaking less, participating less in family conversations, and always looked at me with a worried expression. I realized that conversations with him now carried a sense of distrust. It seemed like he too had begun to question my abilities, and all that doubt came from Emily. One evening, when my dad and I were sitting together in the living room, I couldn't take it anymore. I knew I had to say something to clear the air. "Dad, I'm not the person Emily says I am. I'm doing everything the right way, but she's manipulating everything. I can't just sit back and let her destroy our family like this," I said, my voice filled with concern. My dad looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. "You don't know what's been happening behind your back. You don't know what Emily's been saying to your mom, to us." His words hit me like a slap in the face. At that moment, I couldn't believe that the rift had gone this deep. Emily hadn't just made me lose the trust of my colleagues, she was now shaking the very foundation of trust within my family. "Dad, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm fighting for our family. I can't let her destroy everything. This family can't let her control us anymore," I said, my voice trembling. My dad didn't respond right away. Though he said nothing, I could feel the disappointment and exhaustion in his eyes. At that moment, I knew that my family was at a crossroads between healing and breaking apart, and it all depended on me. At the same time, Maria called me. She had discovered something important. Emily wasn't just trying to destroy me. She was also trying to tear my family apart, making my closest loved ones turn their backs on me. I knew I couldn't let things continue this way. No matter how much my family doubted me, I wasn't going to give up. I would find a way to regain their trust, and more importantly, I would find a way to make Emily pay for what she had done. With determination in my heart, I knew that the battle with Emily was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up with the feeling that I had no other choice. My family seemed to be slowly drifting away from me. Not because I was wrong, but because I couldn't prove the things Emily was doing. I couldn't keep living in doubt and cold conversations. I had to do something to stop it all, to protect myself and the people I love. I sat down in front of my computer, opening all the emails, messages, and calls from Emily that I had recorded. The initial feeling of helplessness had now turned into determination. Every time I went through our conversations, it felt like I was looking at pieces of a larger conspiracy. She wasn't just trying to control me. She wanted to destroy everything I had built, from my career to my personal relationships. I started making a plan. First, I had to confront the company, my boss David, who seemed to have been influenced by the lies Emily had planted. I needed to show him that I wasn't the person she was painting me to be. But I couldn't stop there. She had attacked my family, and I wouldn't let her ruin everything. I was going to confront Emily directly and set the record straight. The confidence I once had came rushing back. I decided to call Maria. She was the only one who had been by my side from the beginning, and the only one in my family who could understand the truth. "Maria, I need you to help me. She's ruining my life, and I can't just sit back and watch anymore. Can you help me gather evidence?" I said on the phone, my voice full of resolve. Maria agreed immediately, without hesitation. "You're not alone in this fight, Jack. We'll find out the truth. Emily can't keep manipulating everything." We started to make a specific plan. I would gather all the necessary documents, record every meeting, every conversation that Emily was involved in, and track any changes at the company that I suspected were linked to her interference. I couldn't let her keep manipulating my life without clear evidence. At the same time, I began preparing to face my family. I knew that if I wanted to regain their trust, I had to prove that I wasn't the villain Emily had painted me to be. My mom, my dad, they all needed to know the truth. Emily had succeeded in pulling them into her game, and I couldn't let her continue to tear my family apart. I would do everything to open their eyes. As I planned each step, I felt my resolve growing stronger. Every time I thought about standing up to Emily, a new surge of energy filled me. I couldn't let her win. I couldn't let her destroy me and my family anymore. Both Maria and I understood that we were facing a long and difficult battle. But at least we could be sure of one thing. The truth wouldn't stay buried forever. Emily couldn't hold on to control forever. This was the time for me to fight for my life, for my family, and for what I believed in. The fear I felt at the beginning was gone. Now, there was only determination. Emily might have all the connections and power she wanted, but I had the truth. And that was something she could never take from me. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about what was about to happen. I knew I had to face Emily, but I also couldn't stop worrying about the consequences that could follow. What she had done had not only affected me, but everyone in my family. She had succeeded in dividing us, making everyone doubt each other. But now, I couldn't let her continue destroying my family. I decided that no matter how difficult it was, I would confront her directly. I scheduled a meeting with Emily at a family gathering that weekend. An evening when everyone would gather, eat, and talk like a family. But I knew this wouldn't just be any ordinary gathering. This would be the decisive confrontation. When I walked into the room, I could feel the tension in the air. The whole family was gathered around the dinner table, but there was an unusual silence that hung over everyone. My mom and dad sat quietly, not smiling or speaking like they normally did. Only Emily, with her ever-present cold smile, sat at the center like she was the only one in the family without a care in the world. My eyes met Emily's. A cold wave washed over me, and I knew it was time to stand up. She looked at me defiantly, but I didn't flinch. I had been preparing for this moment for a long time, and I wasn't going to let her gain the upper hand. "Emily, I need to talk to you," I began, my voice unwavering. "You can't keep destroying my life and this family any longer. It's not going to end the way you think." Emily raised her head, narrowing her eyes with arrogance. "Oh, really? I think I've done a lot for this family, Jack. Can't you see that?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "You're manipulating everyone in this family. You've made them believe the lies about me. You're doing this with one goal in mind, to control everything, but I can't keep putting up with it. You'll have to pay for what you've done." The entire family was silent. No one dared to speak up. My mom and dad exchanged looks, but neither of them dared to intervene in this confrontation. My mom looked at me with an unfamiliar expression, as if I were a stranger. As for my dad, he didn't say anything, but I could feel the disappointment in his eyes. Emily started to lose her composure, her face turning colder. "Jack, you don't understand. I'm just trying to protect this family. I only want what's best for everyone," she said, but her tone was filled with self-satisfaction. "Protect? You're destroying us," I responded. "You've sabotaged my work, torn this family apart, and now you're trying to make me lose everything. I'm not going to let you do that anymore." A silence followed, but I couldn't stop. I pulled out my phone and played a video recording of a conversation between Emily and me that I had gathered earlier. I didn't need to say anything else, because everything was already clearly recorded. The entire room fell silent as the video played. Every word Emily said exposed the truth she'd been hiding. My mom stared at the screen, then turned to look at me. Her eyes began to well up, and I could see the disappointment in her gaze. She couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Emily, how could you do this?" my mom whispered. You can't do this to us." My dad spoke up, his voice trembling. I looked into Emily's eyes once again. "Do you see now? This is the truth. You can't keep lying to everyone anymore. This family will never be your tool again." Emily stood up, but this time she wasn't as confident as before. She looked around the room, realizing that everyone had seen the truth. She swallowed, her face full of panic. "You won't get away with this. I won't let you win," she said, her voice filled with rage. "What more can you do?" I asked coldly. "You've done everything, but now there's nothing left to lose. My family won't let you control us anymore." Without saying another word, Emily turned and walked out. As she left the room, the atmosphere in my family's home seemed to lighten. Finally, I felt like things could begin to turn around. But I knew This was only the beginning. Emily might be gone, but my family and I had a lot of work ahead of us to fix what had been broken. But at least, today, we had stepped into the light. The next morning, the tension in the family was still palpable. But this time, I felt a small change, though it was very subtle. My mom and dad no longer looked at me with the same doubtful eyes. They remained silent, but in their gaze I could see acceptance slowly returning. But I couldn't let things stop here. Although the confrontation with Emily had ended quickly, I knew I had to continue fighting to completely free my family from her control. I had carefully prepared for the next step. I wouldn't just stop at confronting her with words. I needed to make everything transparent, leaving no room for doubt. I had to show my family and everyone around us the clear truth about what Emily had done. And I had enough evidence to do just that. That evening, I decided to share the video I had recorded during my conversations with Emily. The talks I had secretly recorded to protect myself. I knew this was the time to explain the truth. I called Mariah, the only friend who had always stood by me and helped me throughout this ordeal. "Maria, I need you to do something for me. Can you help me share this video with everyone in the family?" I asked, my voice resolute. Maria was silent for a long moment before responding. "I understand, Jack. I'll help you. Everyone in the family needs to know the truth." Together, we sent the video via email to everyone in the family, especially to those who might have been manipulated by Emily. I couldn't wait any longer. I wanted my family to see everything, to understand the truth about what she had done. As I hit the send button, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But I also understood that, although the truth had been exposed, the reaction from my family was unpredictable. About 3 hours later, I received the first call from my dad. This time, his voice was different from the way he had spoken before. He was no longer cold, no longer filled with disappointment. In his voice, there was concern, but also a hint of hope. "Jack, we need to talk. The video you sent is the clearest proof. You were right, and Emily really did terrible things to this family. I don't know what to say anymore. But at least I see things clearly now," my dad said, his voice trembling slightly. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. My dad's words felt like a release. Finally, he had seen the truth. Then, my mom called. "Jack, can you come home? I need to talk to you." Her voice was gentle, no longer filled with tension or doubt. When I got home, the atmosphere in the living room seemed to have completely changed. My mom sat on the couch, her eyes no longer filled with sadness or disappointment. She looked at me and softly said, "You were right. I'm sorry for not believing you. I didn't know Emily had gone this far." Both my mom and dad sat with me, and we began talking about what had happened. I didn't want to reopen old wounds, but I knew that for our family to truly heal, we had to face the truth. Emily had created a dark cloud over this family, and now we needed to rekindle the light. We decided we wouldn't let her win. The people in my family may have been deceived by Emily, but now they understood that she wasn't who they thought she was. Messages, emails, and calls from family members kept coming. Everyone began reaching out, asking questions, and in their eyes I saw regret. Some people apologized, while others couldn't believe they had been manipulated by Emily all this time. But one thing was certain. This story wasn't over. I hadn't just regained my family's trust. I had helped them realize the power of the truth. And I wasn't afraid anymore. The truth had been exposed, and Emily would have to face the consequences of her actions. We had begun to reclaim what we had lost. The next day, the atmosphere in my family had completely changed. There was no more tension in my mom's eyes, no more cryptic comments from my dad. Everyone had seen the truth, and now I felt like I had just won a battle I never wanted to fight. But this battle wasn't over yet. Emily left the house after that confrontation without saying a word, and it seemed like she had no intention of returning. But I knew she wouldn't give up so easily. After all, Emily had spent too much time and effort building her networks of power to let them crumble so easily. That was something she couldn't accept. A few days after the video was sent out and everything had begun to settle down in my family, I received a call from my boss, David. He said that the company was starting to reconsider the decisions Emily had been involved in. "Jack, I want to thank you for helping us understand the situation better. Everything's clear now. You didn't do anything wrong, and we'll be reviewing the previous contracts." David's voice was full of recognition and apology. A sense of relief washed over me, but I knew this wasn't enough. Just as I suspected, Emily wouldn't back down. Just a few days later, I received a call from my mom. "Jack, can you come home right now? Something serious has happened. I don't know what to do." Her voice was trembling, and I couldn't wait any longer. I drove home in worry. When I arrived, my mom was sitting in the living room, shaking as she held a letter. "This is from Emily," she said, pointing to the letter she had left in our family's mailbox. I opened the letter and read each word, my vision dimming. Emily had threatened to sue my family if I didn't stop spreading information about her. She claimed she would do everything to destroy my life and my family if I continued to oppose her. "She won't give up, will she?" I said, my voice filled with exhaustion. "But she doesn't understand that I've prepared for this. Everything I've done is legal. She can't intimidate me anymore." As I was thinking about my next steps, I received an unexpected call from an unfamiliar voice. "Hello, Jack. I'm attorney Greg Anderson, and I represent Emily. We'd like to work with you to resolve the issues regarding the lawsuit she mentioned." His tone sounded serious, but I couldn't help but notice the underlying threat in his words. "I don't need to settle anything with her," I replied without hesitation. "I won't let her force me into anything. If she wants to sue, I'm ready to face her in court." But then, something unexpected happened. Within a week, all the relationships Emily had built within my company and my family began to unravel. Her former colleagues, who had once supported and helped her, started withdrawing quickly. For long, Emily's contracts with the company were terminated. The positions she had held on the board of directors and other organizations were also temporarily suspended. Not long after, a group of family members gathered and decided that Emily would no longer be a part of the family. Everyone had realized the truth about her, and although many of them felt ashamed for having believed the lies Emily had spread, they all stood by my side. One day, my mom came to find me with an important decision. "Jack, the family has talked. We're not going to let Emily use us anymore. Your father and I have decided that she will not be allowed to come back to this house." Even though I had known deep down that one day they would see the truth, there was still an indescribable feeling when I saw everyone standing up for what was right. My family had regained their strength, and I knew that I had helped them realize the true values of family. Emily may never forgive me, but at least I did the right thing, and no matter how she tries to attack me again, I will always be ready to face her. She's gone too far, and now it's time for her to face the consequences of her actions. My family may have been hurt, but now we're starting to heal, and the most important thing is that we didn't let her break us again. Although my family had begun to find peace again, I knew the victory wasn't truly complete. Emily was not someone who would easily accept defeat, and I knew she wouldn't give up just because of what had happened. She had lost her power, but her anger and determination for revenge were still intact. I couldn't afford to let my guard down right now, because I knew she would find another way to attack us. A week after Emily had been shunned from the family and the company, I began noticing some strange signs. Payments that I thought were settled suddenly got suspended. My credit card was temporarily frozen without any clear reason. The bank accounts I used for business were facing similar issues. The sense of unease hit me again. Was Emily starting to use her old connections to attack me? I couldn't just sit back and wait for everything to collapse. One morning, I received a call from the bank. "We need you to come in to verify your account. There have been suspicious transactions made from an unidentified IP address." The bank representative informed me over the phone. I immediately felt something was wrong. I had once heard my mom say that Emily had access to some family information, but I never thought she could go this far. I began to realize that she was continuing to attack us in more subtle ways. And I knew no one but Emily could be behind this. When I arrived at the bank to sort everything out, I discovered that a large sum of money had been transferred out of my account without my knowledge. There were even payment transactions in my name that I hadn't made. At that moment, I had no doubt anymore. Emily was trying to bankrupt me, attacking my finances to bring me down. The feeling of anger, mixed with fear, surged within me. I couldn't continue letting her manipulate and destroy my life like this. I immediately called my lawyer and asked for his help to stop these attacks. "We need to act now, or everything I've built will be destroyed by her," I said, my voice trembling. My lawyer promised to help me trace the source of the transactions and ensure that Emily couldn't continue committing these illegal acts. But deep down, I knew I couldn't rely solely on the legal system to protect myself. I needed to do more. The next day, while reviewing the transactions, I discovered something surprising. There were some emails and documents from one of the accounts connected to the company Emily had once worked for, and they contained sensitive financial information about my family. I couldn't help but think that Emily had accessed these systems while she was still employed at the company. She had secretly accessed sensitive information, and now she was using it to sabotage me. I knew I had to act quickly. I couldn't let her continue to control my life. I decided to call an emergency family meeting because I knew that only by coming together and acting as a united front could we overcome this situation. When the whole family gathered, I began to explain everything that had happened and what I had discovered. Everyone was shocked, but it seemed like they had realized that Emily wasn't just harming me. She was attacking all of us. "She's been using our family's information against us," I said, "and if we don't act now, she won't stop here." This family meeting not only helped me find support, but it also made everyone realize that we had to stand up together to protect what we had. Emily may be smart and ruthless, but we wouldn't let her continue to win this battle. I decided to change my strategy. Not just to fight her legally, but also to expose the truth to the public. She wouldn't be able to continue causing harm to my family without paying the price. We would no longer be victims of her, but we would be the ones to win this fight. After the tense days, when my family and I had to face Emily and the ruthless schemes she had set up, we began to realize the most important thing in life. Family is something that cannot be broken if we truly stand together. Immediately after I exposed the truth about Emily, the walls she had built between me and my family slowly began to crumble. At first, my mom and dad seemed confused and guilty for not recognizing her sooner. But after all the secrets were revealed, we began to heal and mend the relationships within the family. My mom was the first to take action. She came to find me after the family meeting that weekend, with a look of determination I had never seen before. "Jack, I don't know what I can do to make up for my mistakes," she said, her voice full of regret but also filled with resolve. "I've heard and understood everything. I will stand by you, and I won't let Emily destroy our family any further." I hugged my mom tightly, because I knew there was nothing more important than my family being able to face the truth together. After my mom stood by me, my dad also gradually realized that Emily's decisions and actions were not what he wanted for our family. "You're not wrong, Jack. I never wanted to see you go through this," my dad said in a conversation I will always remember. "This whole family has been deceived, but I promise I'll help you get back what we lost." With the support of my parents, I began working with my lawyer to recover the financial damages Emily had caused to the family. I had gathered enough evidence not only to sue her for her wrongful actions in the company, but also to seek compensation for the damage she had caused in my family. I didn't just want justice for myself. I wanted it for everyone she had exploited and manipulated. This fight wasn't just about taking down Emily. The most important thing was that I had my family standing by me. That was something I couldn't find anywhere else but in my family. As everyone started regaining trust, the frequent meetings with them were filled with support and understanding. A month later, as we continued working with authorities to bring everything to light, I received a surprising message from Emily. She wasn't as strong and confident as before. The message read, "I know I went too far. I'm sorry for everything, but I can't come back." That was the only apology I received from her, but I didn't feel any real remorse in it. My family had seen the truth. Everything had finally come to light, and the consequences Emily had to face were unavoidable. She was completely shunned from all relationships in both the family and the company. Those she had manipulated turned their backs on her, and she now faced the loneliness she had created for herself. But I no longer felt tense or fearful. Life began to return to normal. My family now was not only stronger but more united than ever. We had gone through the storm together, and the important thing was that we realized nothing was more precious than love and unity in a family. That evening, when we sat down to dinner together, with no more suspicious glances or conflicts, I looked at my parents and the family members around me and realized that no matter how many challenges life throws at us, as long as we stand together, nothing is impossible to overcome. We won, didn't we? I asked, looking around at my loved one. My mom smiled, and then my dad nodded. Yes, son, we won. A few weeks after Emily was shunned from the family and the company, my life began to gradually return to normal. While we had overcome the biggest challenge, what gave me peace of mind wasn't just that everything had been resolved, but the lessons I had learned from this experience. Throughout this battle, I didn't just have to face Emily, I had to face myself. I realized that in life, no matter how many challenges or people try to get in your way, the most important things are persistence and honesty. Sometimes, when we face our enemies, we're not just fighting to protect ourselves, but also to protect the things we love. This story isn't just about exposing the truth or fighting a villain. It's also a lesson about never giving up, no matter the circumstances. When I look back on everything I've been through, I don't just see pain and loss, I see growth. I've learned how to stand strong in the face of adversity, how to find a way out in situations that seemed impossible. I remember the sleepless nights when I had to worry about the company, about my family, about everything I had and could lose. Those thoughts drained me, but they also became a huge source of motivation. The more I endured, the stronger I became. And more importantly, I realized that I couldn't let fear control my life. While I fought for justice, I also learned that in life, we can't avoid challenges. These challenges are not meant to break us. They're meant to help us become stronger. And sometimes these challenges come from the people we trust the most. But it's these very hardships that teach us the value of patience, resilience, and most importantly, the truth. One thing I became clearer about than ever before during this fight: family is everything. Although we might not be perfect and there may be conflicts, when everything falls apart, family is still the only foundation we can rely on. I'm incredibly lucky that, in the end, my family stood by my side, and together we weathered the storm. My mom had changed her perspective, and my dad had realized that the love of family is something that should never be lost. There's nothing more important than us protecting each other, no matter who tries to destroy what we've built. Jack, you've taught me a valuable lesson, my mom said one evening after everything had settled down. That is, we can't let the cruelty of others change the way we live. We must stand firm and do what we believe is right, regardless of the outcome. I couldn't help but smile when I heard my mom's words. She was right. Sometimes life doesn't go according to plan, but the important thing is that we can rise after every fall and learn from our mistakes. In the end, I realized that this very fight made me stronger. And once we've overcome fear, we no longer have to worry about what's outside. I got back what I lost and more. I learned how to face every challenge without backing down. And I'll always remember that when family and love stand beside you, nothing is impossible to overcome. From now on, I will not only live for myself but for my loved ones, so they know I will always fight to protect the most important things in life. On the final day of this battle, I sat in the living room with my family. The light from the table lamp casting a warm glow on each of their faces, creating a cozy atmosphere. This wasn't the first time we had sat together, but this time everything was different. There were no more worries, no more accusations or distance. We had been through too much to find this unity again, and I could feel that family was still the place where I could always find comfort, no matter how harsh the world outside might be. Emily may have tried to destroy our lives, but in the end, all she did was bring us closer together. Over the past months, I learned that there's nothing more precious than the love and unity of family. Sometimes the challenges in life come from the people closest to us, but it's from these struggles that we discover the true value of honest relationships. As I looked at my mom and dad, I saw peace in their eyes. My dad, who used to worry about every decision I made, now looked at me with eyes full of pride. My mom, though still a bit worried at times, had a trust and steadiness in her that I had never seen before. We didn't just overcome these challenges. We rebuilt a relationship I once thought could never be healed. "Jack, I can't express in words what you've done for this family," my mom said, her voice filled with emotion. "I understand now that no matter how difficult life may get, if we stand by each other, nothing is impossible to overcome." Her words were a confirmation of everything I had been through. This battle wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about protecting the most important values in life. Since Emily left, I no longer felt threatened. I had learned how to stand firm in the face of adversity. And, most importantly, I had regained the trust of my family. I looked around at everyone and knew that we hadn't just survived a battle. We had learned to love and appreciate each other more than ever before. What we had been through would never be forgotten. And I would always remember that when you protect your family, you will never be alone. "You've taught us an important lesson, Jack," my dad said, his eyes full of affection. "That only the truth can solve any problem, and we should never be afraid to stand up for what's right." I felt like a new door was opening before me. I had fought not only for myself, but for the people I love. I had come to realize that no matter how unfair or challenging life may be, if you always do what's right, you will find strength in yourself and those around you. "Thank you for everything, Mom and Dad," I said, my voice emotional. "Thank you for always being there for me. No matter whether I was wrong or right, we've been through this storm together." And that, perhaps, was the greatest lesson I learned from this battle. Persistence, truth, and family are the strongest things we can hold on to. Challenges will always come, but if we are resilient and never give up, nothing can break us. And in the end, unity will help us conquer everything. My story may have ended, but the lessons it taught me will stay with me for the rest of my life.